that I haven't liked. That's the honest to God truth. I've never met anyone honorably discharged that I haven't liked. I've never met anyone that was other than honorably discharged. Now, I have met some people that were dishonorably discharged that I have not liked. And that is only because some of them have done some unique stuff. I know someone personally who spit on an officer in the service and was discharged, and that's not what it's about. It's about your duty to your country. It's about doing the right thing. It's about standing for that flag, something I've been getting very active about, because for a while it really didn't offend me, even during this run of the nonprofit that I've been doing for 3 years. I never really thought about it until I looked at the flag one day and it hit me. I never served. And I'll tell all of you that first off, because everybody always asks me the first question, what branch? When were you in? What war? Never, never, and never. I tried 7 times. 7 times the United States president named Obama, had rules and regulations set that waivers were needed for me, and no waivers were processed. There would never be a waiver for me during his campaign. Okay, during the Trump administration, it's possible, but I'm in a different place now where I don't think it's necessary. I believe that I am the bridge between veterans and civilians, and I will continue being that because it is needed. Okay? That being said, I didn't see it like our veterans seen it because they served for the flag. I served for them. Not that the flag doesn't affect me, but I started to see the flag differently. Because the red is all the blood that they've spilled for us. The white is our children and the innocent, and the blue is the thin line that keeps us alive at home when our veterans are deployed. Hence, red, remember every deployed, which you should be doing every Friday, wearing a red shirt if you can at your current job that says, remember every deployed. That being said, hell yes, it offends me now because you stand for the flag and you kneel at the cross. The only thing you should ever kneel at is the cross and the graveside of those you love and lost. That flag is everything to this country. That flag has nothing to do with race or religion or any kind of hatred. I don't want to hear any shit from anybody about how in 1776 our country still had slavery and therefore it's offensive. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. That flag represents George Washington, the first president of the United States, Samuel Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and many more who decided to fight British oppression and form this nation that is one nation under God, which is indivisible with liberty and justice for all. That's all there is to it. You can't frickin' change it. History is history. Now, the atrocities of our country are the Civil War. In my eyes, the Civil War was an unnecessary, unjust war, and slavery should have never happened. That's just me. That's just how I feel, okay? I think that Americans killing Americans is frigging stupid, which is exactly what we're doing today. Okay? We have the left field and the right field. We have Antifa, and we have those who serve. And you know what? Antifa wants to kill the people on the right that serve, and the right that serves wants to kill Antifa. That's still not a solution. There's got to be an amicable middle ground in everything we do. And if I have to stand out in the middle and take shots to do it, I will do it. I'm getting actually quite close to that. I'm seriously thinking about going down to D.C. if D.C. actually happens, and maybe standing in the middle of both crowds, and maybe saying what I feel. And if I get hurt, that's okay, because I serve that flag as well. You see, this isn't what our forefathers wanted. They didn't want anybody to go through what they went through. But instead, somehow we went backwards and got even worse. Not quite sure how it happened, but it sure as hell did. That being said, let's go for another little bit of music. And yes, all my music is odd and creepy themed for Halloween.
them to deeper and darker pits. His power grew, swift and unrelenting.
And now for more. I've looked at a few clips tonight from the Australian side of Vietnam and a few other things. This is World War One.
Oh, well, that goes back to the day when the war was declared. And I can remember at school, the teacher, he just read this publication in the daily paper, how we were committed to war. And I couldn't hold myself. And I just said, bawled out, I'll be there. And that was in 1914 when the war was declared. Well, I knew that when I was old enough and able to, I would enlist.
Well, then we were building light railways and plank roads and things like that. And general work, just general engineering. We didn't go into action properly until the 20th of September. I think I described that, the shell. I was lucky I got out of that. One of our own shells lobbed within about 3 feet of the trench I dug. Luckily I was stooping down. If I had my head up, I might have blown off.
One time, we put up for a rest at a rat-infested tunnel in Kemmel Hill. The next morning, after the usual wash at a nearby shell hole, one of my comrades burst out laughing, pointing to my head. "Have you seen yourself this morning, Kizzy?" he asked. "No," I said. "What's so funny about it?" "Go and have a deco at yourself in your glass," he said, laughing. This I did pronto, and discovered the rats had enjoyed themselves during the night and ate quite a lot of my long hair. Fortunately, they were considerate creatures because they didn't chew my hair off near my scalp, but left about an inch of it. I wasn't a pretty sight.
So that we had to be off no man's land before first light. And so finally, just before daylight, in drizzling rain, we were on the move. Our NCOs and our officers were in charge again, and we were led up to an old line of trenches that was grassed over, and I reckon that would be about 700 or 800 yards from the first German line of defence. And in this line, our fellas filed in. I was following up, and then I found myself waiting for the 0 hour, and I just knelt down and said, "It'll lived my memory ever since." And I would say the same thing today, but that morning I said, "Please God, bless Mother and Father, bless brothers and sisters, whatever becomes of me." Then I thought no more of a prayer or anything else. And then immediately after, Jack Adams ran along the top of the trench and he bawled out, 6 bayonets and load up. And then he came back, still running. Up, boys, and at 'em. Keep going. There is no objective.
We started our attack at 11:55 p.m. after the barrage had lifted. Our objective was the ridge at the windmill, Poziers. I read the ode there in 1978 on our Diamond Jubilee trip. The wire was supposed to have been cut, but unfortunately it wasn't, excepting for a little bit where the particular spot where I was, the outer section managed to get through, but a shrapnel bomb burst over us, and that's the end of it. I was badly wounded, the left leg being smashed and open nearly from the knee to the ankle, with a bullet through the foot.
When we're at what you call Hill 60, that's the place they blew up eventually. They had all dugouts under the hill. Well, there was a lot of mustard gas, and the Germans used to send over these sneezing gas, and you couldn't help sneezing, and you couldn't put your helmet on when the mustard gas lost. So I've seen plenty of that. I've seen chaps go out. It's wicked, that mustard gas. Yes, at Hill 60, I've seen quite a lot go out with there.
It's said that some of our fellas just rested their guns on the wire and fired from there, while others tried to deal with the wire. But Nigger Wilson ran along the wire in front of us, and he found the opening, which had been left to let their own patrols through. But because he was an old soldier, he knew he'd find that opening, and he led us through the wire. The wire was alive with bullets as we went through, and he just bellowed out, "Form a line, charge," and then we took the trench. The stretcher bearers were coming out from a little sunken part of the road, and they tied a handkerchief on their stretcher, and the guns that would fire, the Germans honoured that. The stretcher bearers, they raced out, got their man, brought him in, and they went out time and time again to bring their man in. Each time the gunners just honoured those stretcher bearers.
Oh my word. That was the coldest winter they had for 35 years when we were there. Oh yes, the ground was frozen. When you went to dig a trench, you'd see the sparks fly off the pickhand on the ground. That's a fact. You wouldn't believe it until you got through about 3 or 4 inches. Then you get onto the earth. That's how to do before you could dig a trench. They're marvellous chaps. That put me against smoking. You'd be in the trenches, and they'd have to light up to save their nerves, they'd say. You know what I mean? Probably give our posse away. And I used to say I'd like to soothe their nerves with something big stick.
But of course, Charlie is just one of those fellas that's still over there in the poppy fields. I went to visit Charlie one day. He went to a different company than I was. And the boys said, no, Charlie was reading a letter from home, and a shell came over. We couldn't find enough